Welcome to this episode of the Coach Estrada PE podcast. Today I have a very special guest, internet sensation, huge video creator, slash awesome PE teacher, Corey Martin. How you doing today, Corey?
I'm doing good. How about yourself? Making me blush.
Oh, dude, come on. There's all kinds of people that would be dying to have a conversation with you, mainly in the ages of 5 and 18.
Yeah, five. Probably you can go a little bit higher than 18.
Oh yeah, the ladies absolutely love the content. The teachers and the men also. They're loving it because it's just a great piece of teaching tool. Okay, so could you give us a brief description in 1 minute, which is kind of tough because we talked before and there's a lot of layers of the onion. Who is Corey Martin?
Okay, in a sense of how can we best understand how I turned out the way that I did, I would say I grew up in a household where my mom was a teacher. My dad worked community service, so helping people was just a part of our household. So that's ultimately why I got into education. Physical education, mainly because I have a strong background in sports. I played college baseball. I played with the Cubs organization for 3 years, professional baseball. And then as soon as that was done, jumped straight into the teaching world. And this is my 10th year teaching. And when COVID hit, that's what started the whole video train of how can we keep these kids engaged and interested. And I drew the inspiration from, shout out to P.E. Bowman. He was the first one that I watched where I was like, man, that's impressive. I want to do something like that. So was that less than a minute?
Yeah, I'll give it to you. Before we move on, and you just rushed right over, you were with the Cubs organization. How was that as a stepping stone for who you are now? Do you think that was all positive, some negative, disappointment, anger, frustration? Oh, sorry. I want you to answer. Go ahead, Corey.
So, man, there were so many good things that came out of the professional baseball years, just traveling the world, being around all types of different people. I mean, any type of human you can imagine. I lived with them. I played with them. I was shared the dugout with them, you name it. So my social IQ was just from professional baseball. Learning how to handle failure. I was a closing pitcher. You know what a closer is. So I was always the guy. I was in there when the game was on the line at the end. I won a lot of games, but buddy, I also blew a lot of games and I had to handle failure. And that's one thing that I try to stress to my kids in PE class. You have to learn how to win and you have to learn how to fail. Because guess what? You're going to do both all throughout your life. So professional baseball taught me the hard way how to fail. So good, bad, but ultimately I try to see everything glass half full. I would not trade my professional baseball years for anything.
Okay, so you got this big lesson in losing and winning. You got to deal with all types of ethnicities and smells and sizes and cultures. I mean, some of those baseball players are pretty huge, just monstrosity in the gym, right? Now, did you ever compare yourself to them as, like, I probably don't belong here, or were you like, dang it, if I only had 2 or 3 different tools more, I would make it? What do you think, Corey?
Man, I'm never that guy that says I didn't make it because then make an excuse. I have no excuses for why I didn't make it. I didn't perform at the right level at the right time. Spring training, I guess if I were to try to summarize this, spring training, you have 200 guys that go to, in our case, it was Arizona, that go to this one facility in Arizona, and you're there for a month and a half, busting your rear end to try to make a team, because ultimately you've got maybe 110 roster spots that 200 plus guys are fighting for. And if you don't perform during that time, bye-bye, we'll see you. And especially in my case, I got drafted in 2009, signed for $1,000. I'll just throw that out there. My signing bonus was $1,000. I was a senior sign, if you're familiar with how the Major League draft process works, meaning I had no negotiating leverage. The Cubs were not trying to lure me out of another year of college. College was already done. So it's either you take this $1,000 and sign, or what else are you going to do? So signed for $1,000, meaning they did not have much invested in me. So when I did not perform for 2011 spring training, then it was bye-bye. And it's very cutthroat. They call you into the office. This goes back to learning how to handle failure. They call you into the office, and here's your plane ticket home. It was great having you, but we don't need you anymore. And that's it. Then you pack your bags. And that, for me, that was a crazy moment, because baseball was my life in high school. That's when baseball got serious for me, was in high school. So 4 years of high school, baseball was my life. Every day, baseball, baseball, baseball. Signed to play at Western Carolina, Division I baseball. 4 more years, baseball, baseball, baseball. Wake up, go to the weight room, you go to class, straight to team practice, straight to study hall, just nonstop baseball. And then you get drafted. And of course, it's even more baseball, even more so baseball, baseball. And so many years there of just baseball being my life. And then all of a sudden, here's your ticket home. We don't need you anymore. Good luck with the rest of your life. And then walking out of the clubhouse that day, I remember calling my dad thinking, like, what now? Like, my life has pretty much been planned out around baseball for the last so many years. And now I'm about to get on a plane, fly back home. I don't have a job. I have a degree. Luckily, I had that degree. Thank goodness I had the degree, because I immediately went home and started substitute teaching while I was on the job search, got a teaching job. And if you got time, I'll tell you a funny story.
I got all the time for you. I got all the time for you.
Hopefully people will appreciate the story because it's funny. So literally a month after my professional baseball career was done, I got a job as a middle school teacher, PE teacher, and I started coaching women's middle school basketball. Okay. And are you familiar with the activity buses that they ride to those games?
Oh yeah. I'm
sure they're pretty universal.
There's some noises up in there, huh?
I mean, I'm sure if I say middle school activity bus, people automatically get the picture in their head of what a middle school activity bus is. So I'm sitting in the front of this middle school activity bus, girls basketball team behind me, just middle school girls going bananas, dude. And I'm sitting in the front seat like this. I just had the realization of, like, man, life happens fast. It was just a few months ago. I was on an airplane in my suit and tie going to a AAA game where people are carrying my luggage. Now I'm sitting on a middle school activity bus with the middle school girls basketball team, staring out the window thinking, what happened? So that's when it hit me, like, my life has changed. Those years are behind me. Move on. Let's make the best of this. So that was the start of my teaching journey.
Can I tell you right now, the best thing that ever happened to you was that you became a teacher, Corey? Can I tell you? It's night and day. There's no there's no question about that, because from our conversation to what we're going to share today, you have the frame of mind to help any child at any level. If you're willing to work with the girls' middle school basketball team, and your life was baseball, 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 which means that you're willing to at least learn some strategies, whether it's man-to-man or whatever defense you're going to run, 2-2-1, whatever, all that stuff that you did not know a month before. You might have seen it somewhere on the internet, or you're going to play street ball, one or the other, or whatever kind of, that is a huge learning curve. And you sink or swim, and you know that, okay, I'm in a situation where these girls look up to me, not only because I'm tall, but because I actually have to act like I know what I'm talking about here. And when you get blown out, those are the bigger lessons than any other lesson, because you're going to see how the other team reacts. Are they going to blow you out with grace and kindness and kill the clock as much as they can? Or are they going to blow it up and just, they don't care about your emotions and feelings? They're just there to score, and their coach has an ego. So,
right. Did you see a lot of coaches like that too?
Did you see anything like that where you're like, okay, this guy is winning with grace, I want to be like him? Or did you meet any coaches out there that you were impressed by? Not by their win record, but by how they carried themselves?
I did. And I worked with a lot of great coaches, and coaching at that level, middle school sports, it's hard to find a quality coach. I don't know what the pay is like for coaches out there where you're at, but it's not much here. So finding quality coaches that are willing to take that amount of pay and put up with what they put up with, it's hard to do. Now there are a handful of coaches that you see them coach and you're like, okay, your ego is taking the best of you here. Like, you're not sincerely out there for the girls. I don't want to say that they're not out there for the girls, but you can definitely see when the ego is taken over, the coach's ego is taken over the team in the way that they play. But I was lucky, man. I had a lot of great coaches that I worked with and against.
Well,
And that's, I played for a bunch of different coaches too. Don't forget that. I played for two different coaches in college, high school coaches. I played I played at every level of minor league baseball, single A, double A, triple A, rookie ball, spring training. So I played with a number of different coaches, pitching coaches, head coaches. So I've seen every coaching style there is. I'm not saying I'm an expert, but I'm very experienced in multiple coaching styles. So that was one thing that really helped me when I got into the coaching world, because I was able to see, okay, I just played for this style of coach and I like this, but I also played for this style of coach and I like that. So just trying to pull all the things from these different coaches that I've had really benefited me as a coach.
what's
And
the one thing? What's the one thing that you always want to either do for your students? Do you read them stories? Do you focus on one word? Do you have a quote? A quote of the week? What do you do as a coach when you coach, or as you're coaching now, maybe because life's not over? What
right,
is something that you would focus on and you would recommend that other coaches do?
I listen to them. Anytime a kid has something to say, player, student, I listen to them. And we can kind of go back to the whole ego thing. There are teachers out there and coaches out there that don't necessarily listen to their students, or even just pay attention. Pay attention to the classroom, pay attention to the team, pay attention to the mood. If I'm saying something, if I'm giving a speech, are the players listening? Are they receptive to it, or are they checked out? And a common thing that you see happen all the time when players check out and they're not listening and the coach is giving the speech, for example, is the coach gets mad at the players. I'm not like that. In my mind, it's okay. They're not paying attention. They're checked out. What can I do differently? Let's back up here. Let's change the strategy because what I'm doing now is not working. And that all goes back to listening, paying attention, and letting your students and players know that they are being heard. Even if they're not saying anything, you're being heard.
Oh man, that was a golden nugget right there. I'm gonna tell you that right there, Corey, because if you're just going through the motions and the activity is this, and you turn away as soon as the activity starts going because of whatever reason, and you're doing something else on the computer, I'm not telling you you're doing something wrong with your day, but I'm telling you you're missing so many teachable moments. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? Like you're saying, if you're looking and you're actually listening to their body language, which speaks volumes, you
Right.
might get more out of their body language, and you'll be like, okay, time to pull her out or him out, or hey, I gotta pump them up. I gotta tell them, hey, you're still in this game. Don't
Mm-hmm.
get discouraged. And that's might be something that only you can pick up because you're high IQ of sports, and people. Because as physical education teachers, we are huge, huge people movers, chess masters, and dealing with different personalities and grouping strategies. Do you have any like specific grouping strategies that you use and you're like, this is how I can set my kids up for success? Or is it all random, or do you just let them work with their friends? I mean, I want to hear your opinion.
It's a combination of everything you just mentioned, and I take it right back to the paying attention and listening to your students and knowing your students and your players. And if you do that, then making the teams is easy. Whereas if you don't know who you're teaching, who you're coaching, then when it comes time to make teams, you're going to struggle. One of my favorite games to play, whether we're doing basketball, whether we're doing floor hockey, whether we're doing soccer, one of my favorite lead up games is called line whatever sport. Let's say line soccer. Have you ever heard of line soccer?
Absolutely. Go ahead, break it down. Act like I don't know
Yeah.
though.
Yeah. So to try to summarize this quickly, you put half your students on one sideline, half your students on the other sideline. Very COVID friendly game too, especially with soccer, because I can space them out. They're 6 feet apart. And what you do is you number them off. So I have both of my ones right here across from each other, both of my twos right here across from each other, both of my threes right here. And I always sorted them by the ones are my most talented kids. They're right across from each other. So if I call ones to go play, the two most talented kids are going to be battling it out, playing against each other. And you tell them, like, if you're on this team, you're scoring here. If you're on this team, you're scoring there, for soccer, just as an example to give you a visual. So you call your ones, they'll go play. Then you call your twos, also of equal ability, they'll go play. You call your threes. That sets the kids up to be able to have success. Whereas instead of having your most experienced player playing against somebody that sports isn't really their thing, that's really not going to build the confidence and keep this person interested in the sport. But as you progress through the game, you can call two numbers, you can call three numbers, you can start putting these kids out there 3-on-3, 4-on-4, but the game's always going to be fair because you're going to have the same amount of talent from this team and the same amount of talent from this team. Awesome lead up game.
Only addition that I've done, maybe you do it, maybe you didn't explain it, but so I have my lines on opposite corners of the soccer field, right? And so if I say one person goes, the first person in line runs all the way across to the other side of the back, all the way down the touch line or whatever you call it, go through the goal, and then they're running towards the ball. So there's obviously going to be one person that gets there a little bit earlier,
right?
And that prevents any kind of injuries. Like, because if you have two kids running to the ball real quick, then we're talking that there could be some injuries. But I'm just saying, like, and then sometimes I'll have two people going, and they're both running. And the best is when you have three people going, number three's not paying attention.
Oh yeah.
Oh, and I don't yell it. I just put two. My two fingers are up.
Oh, they're paying attention.
Running.
Dude, the kids are chomping at the bit. They're sitting there. You don't have to yell it because they're looking. They're waiting. They're waiting for their turn.
Yeah,
and it's a good positive reinforcement activity too, because I always tell the kids, if you're into it, if you're cheering on your teammates, if you're having good sportsmanship, you're going to play next. So it keeps the kids into it.
You got the money right there, Corey. That's the money. You're setting them up for success, because I love it anytime that you have an opportunity to cheer on your teammates, and you got to remind them. You pause the game. They're like, hey, you're not cheering on your team. This team's over here are getting all pumped up because they got team energy going, home field advantage. It's like they are living here. This is their court. I don't hear you guys or girls,
right.
Whatever you want, whatever you call them, and I don't hear this team. What other fun games do you have that you're like, this is a great team activity that people need to use, or do you need a little time to think about it?
No, I mean, I can just go based off of things I've done recently. Have you ever played? It's not Foursquare that you're probably thinking, where the lines are on the floor. I call it King of the Court. We use beach balls. We don't use actual volleyballs in elementary school because there's a very high failure rate if you're using a real volleyball. So we use beach balls for a number of reasons. One, because you can actually teach, the main reason, you can actually teach the rules of volleyball if you're using a beach ball. Otherwise, chances of a team getting up to 3 hits on one side is very low if you're using a volleyball. So we use beach ball just so we can teach the rules of the game. But King of the Court is what I call it. And if you have two nets, it works perfectly fine. So you take one net, run it this way, the other net, run it that way. So you got to cross. And with COVID, I lowered the amount of kids on a team. We just did 2 to 3 kids on a team. And we had a waiting area. So you got your 4 sections of the court, and you have your waiting area. So ideally you have 5 teams. If you need to make 2 waiting areas, that's fine. Instead of just waiting, I'll put, like, I don't know if you know what a Tebow is, or I'll put something that the kids can stand on and bounce around. That way they're still active and without even realizing that they're being active. So you've got your 4 parts of the court, and then you got your King's Court. I call it Court 3, Court 2, Court 1, and then waiting area.
Yep.
And your goal is to be in the King's Court. So you start every team in a certain court, and then they play. The king always serves. The king serves. They have to follow the rules of 3 hits, and it's got to go over the net on the 3rd hit. You cannot double hit it, so I can't hit it 2 times in a row myself. And the basic volleyball rules. And if the ball lands in your square, or if your team hits it out of bounds, your team moves to the back of the waiting line. Every team behind you moves up. Mm-hmm. And it's one of those games that once you teach the kids how to play it and they figure it out, it's very hands-off. I mean, I got a good group of kids. So once we start that game, I can sit back and observe, and I really don't have to do much. And I think, you're doing the right thing as a PE teacher if you can just step back and you don't have to be hands-on everything. I'm not saying I don't coach. I'm just saying I don't have to go in there and say, hey, no, you're supposed to go here, or hey, there's no yelling. It's the game just runs itself.
At that time, Corey, that's your time to communicate. Remind them communication is important. Athletic stance is important. Even though they're kids, just to be in that ready position is the most important thing. Because if they're not ready and they're looking the other way, or their hands are here, or their hands are on there like this, they're not ready to hit the ball. If that ball is coming down, it's going quick. You got to be ready. You got to be ready. And obviously your kids are super engaged, but those are your teachable moments to make it the next level. And I love that. I love that game. I played a game that's similar, in a different way. So you'll do the star pattern drill, or do you know the star pattern?
Mm-hmm.
And so they'll start on one side of the basketball court or football field, whatever you have, and they're going down the field, passing it in that pattern, right? So if they're passing it in that pattern, then they're doing great things. And then the next version of it, okay, instead of instead of it being 5 people that are passing it, there's 4 people passing it and one defender trying to intercept it. And if they intercept it, they have to go all the way back to the beginning, and that interceptor gets to starts the pattern. And then you can eventually make it 3-on-2.
Yeah, you build up. Yeah, absolutely.
And that's all that teamwork, communication, boom. And you could make it as foam rings. You can make it frisbees. You can make it bean bags, chickens, whatever you got to throw around there. Soccer balls, but they have to work as a team. And I know that's a thing that you're really focusing on with that game, that King of the Court. Another thing you could use is balloons. Balloons mix it up. And what I've done this year with my balloons, I've put the grocery bag over it, tie it up, sanitize it after the game, and they're way durable.
I never thought about doing that. Okay. I like that.
Yeah.
It's a genius idea.
Okay. So what do you start your year off with? Like what is like the first couple weeks in a Corey Martin class?
It's a lot of team building activities. One of my go-tos for getting the kids to communicate with each other, familiarize themselves with the class is, I'm sure every teacher plays a variation of this, or most teachers do. It's like a rock, paper, scissors. I think we even talked about this the other night.
But the people don't know that, Corey. Come on, your 12,000 subscribers don't know about this. But if we get a couple hundred listening, that'd be great. They can learn this rock, paper, scissors game. Break it down for me.
So the way that I set mine up is I have my basketball court sectioned into thirds. So section 1, section 2, section 3. I call it bronze, silver, and gold just to make it more exciting. And every kid starts in the bronze section. You find anybody that needs a partner to play rock, paper, scissors. It doesn't matter. It goes fast. You play rock, paper, scissors. If you win, you move to the silver section. You play rock, paper, scissors with anybody else that's moved on to silver. You play them. If you win, you go to the gold section. You find anybody else that's in the gold section. This can work with, if you got 100 students in your gym, you could play this game. So then you find somebody else in the gold section. You play rock, paper, scissors. If you win in gold, then give yourself a point, start back and try to win another point. See how many points you can win. If at any point you lose, whether you're in bronze, silver, gold, you have to go all the way back to bronze to start over. I've done variations too, where after you win in gold, to complete your point, you've got to run a lap, just add another element, another layer to it. And you could play that game for 10 minutes. This is where, I keep going back to paying attention. I am not good at scripting out a lesson. Do I lesson plan? Yes. Is it probably what you think of a stereotypical lesson plan? No. I'll jot down things I want to do. And let's say, for example, if we're playing this rock, paper, scissors game, and I thought maybe it's going to last 10 minutes, but after 5 minutes, I see the kids are starting to get over it. I move on. I don't yell at the kids and say, "Oh, you got to stay." Nope. Okay. Check out. Let's move on to something new.
Now, Corey, right there, you have the opportunity to switch it on over to quick draw math. You ever play quick draw math?
Preach it.
So you have the opportunity to do number 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5. You cannot do a 0 because 0 is basically free. What a 0 is going to be. Like, you just look at their number and then, okay, sorry, let me explain it. You play rock, paper, scissors. I put a number out. You put a number out. Whoever adds it quickest and shouts it clearly, they move on to the silver. And then you play again with somebody at silver, 2 + 2, and then they go to gold. So
let's go.
Rock, paper, scissors, show. So what do we got?
3.
4.
Oh man, I didn't see the other finger.
Sorry about that. Okay. And so they can't do 0. And then for the older kids, you can do 2 hands. And then for the smart older kids that can handle it, you do multiplication with 1 hand. So they're multiplying 3. Then they got 3, 3 times 4, 12, and whoever's really sharp at it, like, it's a good way to add math into your lesson. And
I like this.
We're
going to play tomorrow. It's going to be our warm-up game. I'm not even joking. It's going to be our warm-up game tomorrow.
Corey, next thing you can do too, and make it a pyramid, okay, with the hula hoops. You've seen the pyramid with the hula hoops? Put it on the ground.
The hula hoop huts. I know how to make that.
No. So let me explain it for you. The first one has about 6 people, and there's 6 different lines. and you can only play the level of that pyramid that you're in. So then the next one has 5, the next one has
Okay.
4, the next one has 3, the next one has
Right.
1. And if you're that champion that won, you can do that lap, or you can play against Mr. Martin. Boom. So okay, like it's made for people that like really structured, super, like they know they can only play that person or that person. They're not looking for their friends. So if you set them up to play against people they don't usually play with, this is a great opportunity for them to just try to play with new people. That's the only
Yeah,
reason
yeah, I
why
like that.
I like that structure. And sometimes if there's nobody in line for that one slot, you can rotate to the next line and go there. Because sometimes the same group seems to be winning all the way up, and they're just waiting
Right.
to play with. So
Yeah.
then, that's just an easy way to, and we could go rock, paper, scissors all day. But what do you find like is something that keeps you pumped up every day you go into the gym or to the field? What keeps you excited every day? Like, is it the kids' reactions? Is it growth in the students that you see, or is it like what is it?
Getting the kids excited about coming to PE. If I have a new game that I like, okay, we just talked about a new version of rock, paper, scissors that I'd never heard before that you just showed me. I'm excited to try that as a warm-up game tomorrow. I mean, that's just one example, but anytime I get a new game or something that I'm excited to show the kids, I'm excited for me to show them, and I'm excited to see their reaction and see them get excited about it. So coming up with new things, it's easy to just do the same thing over and over every year. But whenever you get that new game, you know how this is. I'm sure you're the same way. You find a new game or something that you're like, oh man, I can't wait to show this to the kids. Those are the things that get me excited.
And I think going from just the final product of a game and breaking it down and making it into layers and gamification and adding things that that they should be focusing on, like that's why I always try to bring up that communication, or that like, hey, nice try, like if they mess up on a lead up skill, they don't need to be hearing like, oh, you suck. They need to be hearing nice try, or try it again, you can do it next time. Like, you gotta, like, what do you front load the kids with what they should be saying. And now that they've
Right.
heard it by this time of the year, they're naturally doing it without even me saying it. And those are
That's
things
right.
that you just, like, I already know you do it your way, which is great. I do it my way. And the end result is that we have happy kids that enjoy moving, and they love being social with each other, and they are kind. That's it. That's our goal. Like, the game itself, kind of important, like, but what happens to lead up, what happens when they fail, how they react when they fail, how they react when they win, is very important. And I know you harp on that because you don't want that. I mean, because you got the studs. I know you got some studs in there that will always win,
Right.
but can they graciously lose? That's the question. Like, how can you set those kids up in an opportunity where they're playing against 3 people because they're pretty good at dribbling the ball? They got 3 defenders on them, like, and they're going to be gracious about it when they don't win, because that's
That's
life.
right.
That's life. You got to set them up, So you've had a couple years of teaching. You're now year 10 or 11?
Year 10. I'm in
Year
year 10.
10. Okay. And did you have any like moments where you're like, all right, this is not working out? And what do you do there?
Oh,
I know there's been a couple, like, don't stress out, like, but just like, what do you do to gouge the blood, to clot, whatever's going on? Like, what do you do?
let me preface this by saying, I mentioned earlier about how I learned how to handle failure through my baseball experiences. Failure was common. I've also, from baseball, learned how to be comfortable or be okay in pressure situations, or when things are not going good. I've learned how to keep my composure. You're rarely going to see me frazzled or panic, just because I've been in those situations often, which is one of those things that I'm also, a lot of teachers might shy away from putting their kids in those situations. I don't, because I know that ultimately they're going to learn, they're going to grow from being in those situations where they might not be comfortable. That's one philosophy wise, one very important thing that's helped me over the years. My first year going from middle school to elementary school, that was tough. Because the way you teach in middle school doesn't completely translate. Have you just done elementary, or have you done both?
I've taught every level, but I've
Okay.
done student teaching at the high school. I've done adapted PE student teaching where I've seen them from 0, basically 4 years old to 21. So I've seen what you're talking about. Go ahead and break it down. When you transition from middle school to elementary.
Yeah, and there were a few layers to why this was tough, because I didn't have a system in place. It was my first year doing elementary school. I had an idea of what I wanted to do, but every day was an experiment. Every day was, okay, let's try this as far as like the structure of the class. When the kids come in the gym, let's have them do this. Okay, that didn't work. Let's maybe next time try to do this. Lining the kids up at the end of class. This is, I could tell you a story off of this. I'll go ahead and do it. Stories are fun. Stories make these things more entertaining. So first year teaching, I had a big kindergarten group. We had like 35, wasn't 30, maybe like 28 to 30 kindergartners in one class. A lot of kindergartners.
That's a big group. That's a huge group of kindergartners. I think, yeah, that's too many.
Yeah. And trying to get them, it was a class and a half. There were 3 kindergarten classes. I grouped them into 2 for specials. So I had a class and a half. And trying to get them lined up at the end of the day was a challenge. At the end of the PE class was a challenge. Getting their water, going to the bathroom, kids making sure they're not hanging all over each other because they've been running around, so their endorphins are just going crazy. And there was one day in particular where I was like, man, what am I going to do? Like the kids are off the wall, and I'm not one to just sit there and yell because you've had those teachers that just yell, and over time that loses its effect. So in my mind, I'm like, I don't want to be that teacher. So the positive reinforcement person that I am, I pulled out a pack of sticky notes with my pencil and said, okay, who's going to be the PE star today? I've never done that before. It just came to me, just like, let's try this. Who's going to be the PE star today? You just see the kids just go like, oh. So I drew a little stick figure real quick. I wrote PE star on the sticky note and I held it up. I'm like, all right, one of you is going to get the PE star. And that, long story short, that stuck. And now every class, kindergarten through 5th grade, if I don't do the PE star at the end of the day, they let me know. So
I love it.
Little sticky note, write PE star on there, draw a little stick figure, whatever we did, soccer, basketball, name it. And
that was one of the things that I did in my first I'm gonna tell you real quick. I had a lot of job interviews my first year out of college, and every job interview that I walked into, I had the offer. But the first job that I really wanted to get was in my hometown. And so that was like the 5th interview, and I already had another school district. I was like, no, hold off a little bit longer. I'm not going to sign your contract because I got this job interview. I go in there with my suit, my tie, in the middle of the interview. They're like, what kind of management do you have? Pull out my index cards, and I'm like, I write them a little personalized note.
you do the same thing?
I've done it. Not every time though. I can't do it every time because I'm a little bit like, depends on the lesson and the group, but I think I'm gonna try it out for the rest of the year.
Try it,
Corey. You are now challenging me, which is I like it.
Well, it's funny, like I'll have 1st grade at the beginning of the day, and at the end of the day, I see the 1st grader that got the PE star. They will literally have scotch taped it onto their shirt because it's a sticky note. It's not going to stay on there all day. But they'll make sure they'll put some extra tape on there and stick it to their shirt, and they'll walk
or
around.
A little staple.
Oh, dude, chest sticking out. Like, look, I was the PE star in PE today. And a little stick figure. It's not impressive drawing. I'm not an artist, but they don't care. They just love the recognition.
You need to get them pre-made. You need to make them like. But I think I like the. Do you draw them or do you just draw any random stick figure? Like, is it your friend Jimbo, the stick figure, or is it like a?
If I had a piece of paper, I'd draw you a quick example. I've gotten to where I can write up a PE star in 15 seconds. If we're doing basketball, I'll draw a basketball with a stick figure doing a layup, or the little Jordan image or something like that. Draw a football helmet if we're doing football. And
Corey, man, I gotta get you back on track here, man. We got the PE star, but no, it's good. I love the stories.
Well, this is the same process that my mind follows whenever I'm making a game too. I don't script it. It's just whatever comes to my mind, it just goes.
Yeah, so let's talk about that. I mean, you have over 50 videos now?
I don't even know. I don't.
Okay, it doesn't matter because what matters is that it's been used as a tool for education. And
right.
And you explained to me your success versus other people that create videos. Why are your videos so successful, Corey?
Um, the storyline for me is one of the most enjoyable parts of creating, because I'm not just creating a game that's going to get kids moving. It's like I'm writing a book. I feel like I'm writing a kid's book that has an element of movement to it. And when the kids are moving, I don't think they know they're not just moving just to move. They're moving as a part of the story that they're reading or watching. So for me, I think the storyline is what makes it me, if that makes any sense. Yeah, I'm not going to sit here and say my videos are better than this person or that person. It's just like you said earlier, they're me, whereas that person's making the videos and that's them. So that's the part of me that I would say is in my videos, the storyline, because that's how my mind, how it works.
You know, um, I have seen your quality improve, your quantity improve, and your variety improve. You understand what I'm telling you?
Right.
All of those things get better as you've developed. What is it that you've done to streamline it for yourself? Like, is there any technique? Is there copy and paste? Or what do you do?
Um, it's like any, we'll just take a sport, take a skill, dribbling, shooting, anything that you do over and over and over again, you're going to get better at it over time. And another layer to that is, anytime somebody gives me feedback, whether it's good, bad, or ugly, I listen to it. And if it's negative feedback, I don't just brush it off and say, no, that's wrong, I'm going to keep doing it the way I'm doing it. No, I actually sincerely take negative feedback and I listen to it. One of my favorite stories to tell in terms of the videos that I've made and how they've evolved is the very first video I made. Like I said, P.E. Bowman, rock star, shout out to P.E. Bowman. His level up game was the first game that, when we were all virtual, that my kids played that followed that format, that style, and they were really into it. So in my mind, I'm like, I know I'm not P.E. Bowman, but let me try to make a little game like that. So I made 3 or 4 games where it was like a side-scrolling 2-dimensional game, and I didn't have kids at my. I don't have kids. I think he uses his actual children to be in the games. I didn't have that. So I'm putting myself in most of these games. So you got this big giant running in Creepy Forest and in Mario Land. And I thought they were cool games, and they are. But one of the comments that I got, I think it was on Facebook in our PE group, was, I wish you would take yourself out of these games. And at first I was like, like that's kind of harsh. But then I got thinking about it. I'm like, she's right. Like if I'm going to appeal these games to more people other than just my students, which I was putting them on YouTube and I was hoping that other people could benefit from them. So if I'm going to reach those people and appeal to those people, then I do need to take myself out of these games. So that's where the whole first person concept came into play of like, let's try to make it a 3-dimensional environment where, and that's where Turkey Chase came from. If you remember Turkey Chase, it was the first game that I created that followed that style. It was my first really successful game too. So shout out to, I can't remember who gave me that piece of feedback of take yourself out of the video, but shout out to that person, because they were totally right. And that piece of critical feedback helped me more than anything I could have gotten from any of these videos. And that style has worked, and that's what I've taken and ran with, and that's what's evolved.
Okay. So you rotated away from being outside of the videos. You've continuously challenged yourself by thinking about what's next. What's next? Where do I go now? And you take about what, 5 hours to make a video?
5 hours is on the lower end. I did a couple of the Easter games in 5 hours because they weren't as graphically in depth. The Chase series, I have some subscriptions to media libraries, and so finding, I guess, to dig more into the process, sometimes I'll just, without any plan at all, I'll just go to one of those websites and start browsing for graphics. And if I find a graphic that I like, I'll write my story around that graphic, if that makes any sense.
Oh no, I know exactly what you're saying. And people create their lesson plans the same way. I have a basketball. What are 15 different ways that I can use a basketball? Okay, never done this dribbling technique. Let's try it out. Let's
Right.
just do it. And what's the overall goal? To be confident and be well versed with both hands. Halfway through this, let's do it with our other hand. You
Right.
know. So for you, you go out there, you get the media, you have a dinosaur that we've seen many a times in your video. How
That's
can
what
I
the
use
kids
them?
want.
How can I use them differently?
Let's put them in outer space. Yeah.
And nothing. It's not rocket science. And you're not. And from the conversations we've had, if somebody were to learn your skills and they start to have a good fan base, you're not angry at them.
No.
It's fantastic.
Yeah.
They're
It's
using their brain in the same way or a different way, and they might have other skills like we've spoken about, different editing softwares. KineMaster is the one that you're using right now. Some people use Adobe Premiere. Does it matter? No. What matters is that there's more content for kids that are in a positive way for them to move. Would you
If
agree?
anybody wants advice, if anybody wants to start creating videos like I'm doing, if I were to give them one piece of advice, same advice goes for anybody that's teaching. Be yourself. Make videos with your style. You can. I take inspiration from other creators all the time. I'm not saying don't do that. But you just said it. Take it and let's make it my own. So let's not try to copy and do it exactly the way he did it, because the way that I would do it, like my personality, my style, the way I would flow is going to be like this. So my advice, if you want to create videos, or I think this advice flows across many realms of life, make it yours. When you teach, I'm not going to try to teach like, even though this person was my mentor, I'm not going to teach exactly like my mentor, because his personality and mine, they're not the same. And kids pick up on that fast. Look, I'm all over the place. I'm going from making videos to teaching philosophy. But if you're trying to teach like somebody that's not yourself, the students are going to pick up on that. They see right through it. They see right through it.
No,
And the
because
same thing goes to videos.
Because it's not enjoyable for you. Why would they want to see a distressed, unenjoyed, unfulfilled teacher when you create the lesson and it has good flow? And sometimes it doesn't work for certain groups, and that's okay with life. Like, you are willing to change it as you're realizing, because you're watching the students' reactions. Okay, we're going to shorten this one up a little bit because they can't handle this one, or they are just bored.
That's
Something's
right.
going on. Now, I'll tell you right now, you know this as well as I do. Substitute teacher in the building, them kids are gonna be a little off the hook, and they're gonna need a little bit of rededication before anything really happens. The teaching happens, and a couple of different things. When my students do go a little wild and they're getting out of control, everybody take a knee, boom, because it's a different one. It's a visual movement. Everybody's lowered down, and I do it too. We're not gonna do anything else until everybody takes a knee. Because
Right.
if we can't take this knee and listen for a second, I can't trust you with any of my equipment. I can't trust you with anybody else around you, because you're going to hurt them. And I can't have that. That's not
Yep.
what PE is about. And, back to your videos. You've done a nice demonstration. I think it was a 15 to 20-minute video, and I've shared that at least to 10 different people. You never know that. I've never told you that. And I've shared it because there is a willingness for people to try new things, and if you haven't tried to make your own videos, do it. Like, don't you agree, Corey? Like, make your own videos.
If you want to make videos, I tell people all the time, there's been many of people that I've helped get started using KineMaster, or how to find media, or how to even just get started from square one if you're trying to make a video. But I'll go right back to, do you. If you're going to do it, do you. When you watch my videos and you follow my storyline, that's 100% me. That's my brain working. That's not me trying to be another creator. I'm not trying to be Steven Spielberg, like my storyline, the crazy random flow, it's 100%, that's my personality. So if anybody wants to create, I'm an open book. I will teach you anything you want to know that I know regarding the technology end. But after that, you
It's
got to
up
be
to you.
you.
So, top three places for you to get stock video or photos, or because I know you're now in the 3D world. You're not in the 2D as much as, I mean, you throw it in there a little bit, but where's your top three places that you get your media from?
Well, motion array is number one. I mean, there's a monthly fee. It does cost, but it's so worth it. I think the first video that I used graphics from motion array were, I think it was Jungle Chase.
That's a big one. Everybody loved the Jungle Chase.
Yeah, Jungle Chase, because I went from, I guess I'll throw this out there. I was drawing my own environments before. I had a little app on my, and everything's done on my cell phone, by the way. I mentioned this to you the other night, but everything's done right here. I don't use a computer. KineMaster is a free app that comes on the cell phone. I do pay like $20 a year to get the watermark taken off of it. And that's another thing. If you pay the $20, so you mentioned my tutorial. I do have a KineMaster tutorial on my YouTube page. It goes over the very basics from square one, how to add elements into your video, how to make the elements move. And then it has a green screen tutorial as well if you're doing like a green screen style game. So check that out. It's on my YouTube page. And that's KineMaster. It's a free app on iOS and Android. And if you pay the $20 a month for the premium KineMaster, you get a number of stickers, you get a number of free features that's another source of the media that I use. So I just put out Castle Chase last Monday. The fires, a lot of the things that you saw in Castle Chase were actually free with the $20 paid subscription to KineMaster.
Which people don't understand. That app is so much powerful.
It is.
And not just for PE. If you're just trying to make a cute video, you can make that real quick. It doesn't take much time. But you got motion arrays, number one.
Mm-hmm.
You got KineMaster stickers, and sometimes you might use some of their editing effects, which are kind of lame sometimes, but you can. What else is number three for you?
Well, a lot of my media, like the audio, comes from KineMaster too. KineMaster has a very strong audio library, and then Motion Array has a very strong audio library too. Then the other one is you're gonna laugh, but if you just Google free clip art, just go to Google and type in free clip art, and whatever you're trying to do, you'll be amazed at how many things pop up that are free to use.
Oh so yeah, people are willing to share. That's one of the great things of 2021. We're not in 1999 where images were really, really simple back then, virtual images and clip art.
Right.
I think this conversation is going to have to be, we're going to have to wrap it up pretty soon and do a part two, Corey, within a month or two. Other people are still trying to get a glimpse of what the Corey Martin brain does. I'm starting to get a good handle of it. But do you have any questions for me before we wrap this up? Because I don't want to go too long because I want it to be enjoyable for everybody. And I know they're gonna, once they start, they can't stop. That's the reality of a good conversation.
Yeah. So you're creating now, right? You're starting to create videos. Where are you at in that whole process?
I mean, I've made like 70 videos, but they're specifically more for my classroom, and unfortunately that's not the kind of stuff that goes as viral as yours. But I use everything. iMovie, I use KineMaster, I use IMG Play for my GIFs. That I haven't done that one in a while, but I've screen recorded with QuickTime, I've screen recorded with Loom, I've screen recorded with just the iPhone has an integrated screen recording. I've maxed out all of my Google Drive gigabytes, so eventually I might actually have to pay for something to manage all my data. And that
was the hardest step for me to take. Look, I'm not a big money spender, so when I realized like if I'm really going to take this to the next level, I need to bite the bullet and pay for the premium KineMaster and pay for the Motion Array subscription. Once I got over that hump, so much better. And definitely, if you're passionate about it, it's definitely worth it. So that's my advice.
Like I've explained, Corey, I have a lot of content that's on the way. but I don't have the time because of my commute right now and other things going on that are fantastic. Just life, I like to enjoy my life.
Absolutely.
And that's what I recommend that people that are trying to create any kind of content, like, don't
Burn
use
yourself out.
every second of your morning and day and night for a couple videos. The videos are going to be great if you take your time on them. And it's just like cooking brisket, ribs. You can't speed up the process. It's going to take its time. I know you have a timeline because you've given yourself a timeline, which is kind of your own doing.
Well, I know, man. I know, and I regret it because, well, I don't regret it, but this is going to be the first Monday in at least 2 months that I don't have a new video in the Chase series coming out. But you just said it. I will not burn myself out over it, because if I get burnt out, then the quality of the product that I'm producing more than likely won't be as good, or won't be up to par with what I'm trying to do. So I actually just posted a video today explaining that the sequel to Castle Chase will not be coming out until the next week, just because I needed some time. I needed some time.
And you've explained to me that there's always personal things, and I think people need to realize that your full-time job is not a YouTube channel creator. My full-time job is to have a good time. And when I teach, I'm having a good time. When I'm working with my kids that really need a lot of extra help, I'm having a good time. That's like a couple of months ago, we had Read Across America, and I was reading to kids, and that was such a blessing. Like, being able to just give your time and really be one-on-one with the person to give them that time and effort. It's a special thing. And I'm going to continue to be your, I don't know, I don't think I'm your number one fan. There's millions of people in front of me, but I would say I'm going to be in the top 100 of your fans, not as just a video creator, but as a person. And there's still much that we can learn from each other. And I do want to help you out with whatever you ever get stuck on. So just, thank you so much for being on this episode of the Coach Estrada PE podcast. And if we're lucky, we'll get another episode with Corey pretty soon. I don't want to take all of his time and energy, so we're going to save the rest of this conversation for later. And thank you so much, Corey.
Absolutely, man. Don't forget, I'm a fan of you as well. Anybody that cares about kids and does right by kids, I'm a fan of them as well. So first and foremost.
Well, I appreciate that. And everybody, whoever's listening out there, have a great day.